Hey, what's going on YouTube? I'm Dark Jack, and in this video I'm going to share with you what I learned about Dark Souls PvP. Now, what you're seeing right here is my character. I'm a high-level mage. I'm level 165, and I'm using sorceries. And you have two paths to go down when you play Dark Souls. You can be a warrior, and you can emphasize having a high level in strength and endurance and vitality, or you can be a mage, and you can have really high intelligence and faith. So I've gone down the mage path. And so when you're a mage, you can use pyromancies, sorceries, or then faith spells. So I'm using sorceries, which are extremely powerful. And the sorceries I'm using in these videos are Crystal Soul Spear, and then the Crystal Homewing Soul Mass, and then Dark Beads, Wrath of the Gods, and Great Magic Barrier. In my opinion, those are the best spells for PvP, because with Great Magic Barrier, if you cast it, the enemy that you're fighting against cannot use magic if you're in their vicinity, so it's extremely powerful if you can cast it and then find them right away after you cast it. And I found that in PvP at high levels, the only thing that can kill people quickly are the really powerful spells like Crystal Soul Spear and Dark Beads, because those are the fastest ways to kill someone. So as you can see in these videos, the people I'm playing against, most of them are of my same skill level and my same level that I'm at. So they're really high levels and they have lots of health. So the Crystal Soul Spear does tons of damage, and if you have a really high level of intelligence, and I'm level 52 intelligence right now, that means that my spells do tons of damage. So the Crystal Soul Spear does over 1,000 damage. So if I hit them once with that and then once with another spell, most of the time that's going to finish them off, even if they have a lot of vitality. Right now I've got around 1,500 vitality, and that's about average for a character that is over 100 levels. And so your strategy that you're going to use when you play Dark Souls depends upon what covenant you're in and whether or not you're invading or whether or not you're the one being invaded. So the covenants I'm in for PvP are the Cat Covenant and the Dark Wraith Covenant. So the first videos are going to be the Dark Wraith Covenant, and then the last ones are going to be the Cat Covenant. And so I use the Cat Covenant ring to find matches. So if you want to do PvP, the fastest way to do PvP is through the Cat Covenant. And when you're part of the Cat Covenant and you wear its ring, you can play players of just about any level as long as they're in human form and they're in Darkroot Basin. Whereas with the Dark Wraith ring, not the ring, but if you're in the Dark Wraith Covenant and you invade someone, you can only fight against players of either your level or players who are higher than you. So with the Dark Wraith Covenant, it's a little more difficult because you're playing against players of your own level, whereas with the Cat Covenant, if you are a high level player, you can enter into the worlds of people who are not a very high level, and vice versa. So with the Cat Covenant, what you want to do is that you enter into Darkroot Basin, and then you want to try to stay alive as long as possible, because if you stay alive as long as possible, then what's going to happen is eventually someone else in the Cat Covenant can join in and help you out. So you kind of want to play defensively and wait for someone who is of the same covenant to join you. Whereas if you're part of the Dark Race, then what happens is that no one else can help you out. It's just you and usually the person that you've invaded, and then one other player, as you can see in these earlier videos. So when you do that, most of the time you're at a disadvantage. Whereas with the Cat Covenant, you have the upper hand a lot of the time. And so when you invade someone, you have to remember that most of the people that you invade are not prepared for doing PvP. So you have the advantage over them, and so they're not expecting to be invaded. And if they really didn't want to be invaded, they could have just played offline. But when you invade someone, you want to try to take advantage of the fact that they've been caught off guard. So you want to be aggressive. And so I run up to the person that I've invaded, and I use my magic. I try to use Crystal Soul Spear just to see how they respond. And I'll use my other spells as well. And I'll hold off using Dark Beads, because Dark Beads is probably the most powerful spell in the game. So I don't use that right away because it's pretty overpowered and cheap. And so I'll use Crystal Soul Spear, and I'll use the Homing Crystal Soul Mass and the Crystal one. And also I'll use my swords as well. And you want to use a sword that has a fast attack speed. So I recommend Quelaag's Fury Sword, or another sword that's really powerful and has a fast attack speed. You don't want to use a sword that has a really slow swing time, because it's easy for the enemy to parry you. And you always want to have 25% or less equipment burden. You always want to be able to move around fast, because when you don't have a high equipment burden, You move around faster, you have a faster stamina regeneration, and in addition to that, it's also much easier to avoid the attacks of your enemies because you can dodge further and you can move further when you roll. So when you play the game, you don't want to, it can be really heavy, you don't want to have over 50% equipment burden. You always want to have 25% or less. That way you can move around and you can be quick and you can dodge your enemy and you can parry them much easier as well as get around them from behind and then backstab them. So also, when you invade someone, you want to pay attention to what armor they're wearing and to what weapon they're using as well. Because if you see that someone is a mage, you want to cast the Great Magic Barrier and then get in their face so they can't cast magic, and then use magic against them. And you always want to roll when an enemy is attacking you, and you want to wait for your enemy to attack. Then once they have attacked, you can then counterattack, because when their shield is up, you're not going to do a lot of damage to them, especially if they have like Havel Shield or a really powerful shield. You just want to wait for them to attack, and then hit them with magic or hit them with your sword. So that's basically the basic strategy when you invade someone. You want to take them by surprise, you want to try to backstab them, or if you're using magic, you just want to keep spamming them with magic and stay in close and don't allow them to heal themselves. And then if you're someone who gets invaded, what you want to do is you want to remember to always keep your distance, because you can always heal yourself with Estus flasks, whereas the person who has invaded has not. And if you get invaded, you always want to try to summon someone to help you out. So when you see someone try to invade you, you have to remember that most of the people that invade you are a lower level than you, because if they're in the Dark Waste, they cannot invade someone that's lower than them. So you want to, rather than running away from them, unless you see that you can't beat them, because you can always escape from them by running to the area boss, and then once you go through the fog door, they can't follow you through that. But if you see that you've been invaded, you want to go over to where the known location of where they invade, because in every area they always spawn in at the same exact spot for every map and in every place. So go over to the known invading spot and then try to stab them in the back once they've entered in. And if you can't do that, then what you want to do is you want to try to hurt them from long range and don't allow them to get in close. So you try to use your magic and hurt them from long range, use dark beads, use all the tricks in the book, because remember, they've invaded you, so it's more legitimate for you to use cheap tactics than for them to use cheap tactics. So use dark beads as well to weaken their health, because they can only heal themselves if they use humanity or if they use a spell. And then if they try to use a spell to heal themselves, you want to get in close and then take them out. And if you've taken damage, you want to roll away or run away, and that's why it's important to have less than 25% equipment burden. That way you can always run away, and then you can heal yourself with an Estus flask and then go back to battle. And if you have someone that you've summoned, you want to always use an Estus flask if they take damage, because when you use an Estus flask, it heals them as well. And what you want to remember is that once your enemy has been weakened, you want to be aggressive. You don't want to give them a chance to heal. So you always want to stand close and then finish the fight. Don't allow them to run away and then heal themselves with the humanity or something like that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these tips, and I'll see you later.